Alright all, and welcome back to a new video and another weekend preview, with the July Cup being the centre of the action this weekend, with racing at Newmarket, Ascot, Leopardstown, Cork. There's an awful lot of different cards and an awful lot of good racing ahead of us. It's one of those, it's probably not one of the weekends generally that I would have previewed in the past, but I have been enjoying making these videos. I hope you guys have been enjoying watching them, and therefore I was pretty eager to get out a video for this week. Hopefully you guys saw the Racing Central live stream I was involved with Josh on Tuesday, which was kind of reviewing the weekend's racing. If you didn't, quickly recapping, I think Love is obviously an excellent filly. She was absolutely brilliant in the Oaks. I don't think you could take anything away from her. I think Serpentine got one of the greatest rides we'll see this year from Emmet McNamara, and I think Serpentine actually could be not a bad horse going down the line. And then the Eclipse, Gayat, I think is a very good horse over a mile too. He's just a horse I don't particularly like. We've already discussed this, but I think he could be an excellent horse over 10 furlongs. I wouldn't touch the arc with him, to be honest. If I was anyway connected with the horse, I don't see why you'd run him in it, because I don't think he'd win it. Enable in Japan especially, I thought ran a very good race and hopefully can progress back to a mile 4 later in the season. But as I say, it's a bit of an odds and sods weekend. The July Cup is the only Group 1 on offer, so I'm going to cover it. First, we've got the Superlative Stakes, the Bunbury Cup, the Summer Mile, the Brownstown Stakes at Cork on Sunday, and then my nap of the weekend. So it's 5 races and a nap, a bit like last weekend. Hopefully you guys don't mind that format. I'll have all the selections down in the description below as well, as I have been doing so pretty recently. So hopefully you guys, if you don't have the time to go through 10 minutes of this video, fair enough. Hopefully you guys can have a look at the description below, and hopefully we can back a few winners. Starting off with the July Cup, which is actually a pretty interesting race, over 6 furlongs at Newmarket. I've got a few good horses in here. Golden Horde, who won the Commonwealth Cup, Sceptical and Hello Yumzane and Kadem, all who ran in the Diamond Jubilee at Ascot and came 1st, 3rd and 4th respectively. So it's a good race on paper, and the ground is soft at the moment for Friday's racing at Newmarket, which has probably reflected a little bit on the market. But what it's done is it's pushed Sceptical out to 9-2. Now 9-2 is currently available with William Hill. I think he's as short as 10-3 with Paddy Power. So it just shows you, if you do shop around and use the odds checker app and stuff like that, you can find better prices. I don't usually put up prices from Bet365, I must say, because they have a terrible rep for not taking bets, so I usually keep it to the 3 or 4 kind of, well, what I would deem to be kind of the top bookmakers in terms of Paddy Power, William Hill, Ladbrokes, maybe Coral if they were giving a good price. But anyway, Sceptical's 9-2 with William Hill. I think this is a bit big for this horse, to be honest, and I think it is solely because of the ground. As we discussed on the Royal Ascot preview, he's an Exceed and Excel horse. So these horses usually want a bit better ground, but he hasn't shown anything to suggest that he won't go on soft ground, you know. And like the run in the Diamond Jubilee was probably on the soft side of good. I know it was advertised as being good ground, but it was on the softer side rather than the firmer side, and he coped with that perfectly well. Frankie Dettori maybe got there a little too soon. I know Frankie said himself after the race, if he knew the horse maybe that little bit better, he might have timed it a bit better. And he gets a second go on this horse, which I think is fascinating. He's earmarked this race out for him. I believe, have I got it completely wrong? I don't know, but I think the July Cup might be the only Group 1 in England that Frankie hasn't won yet. It's a race like this. It's one of these sprint races. I think it's this one. And I think he thinks he's found a horse that potentially could go and do it. You've got Golden Horde in there. I think Golden Horde brings rock solid form to the table. He's 2-1. He's a fair favourite. I wouldn't really be looking much into his Commonwealth Cup run. I think that form is pretty useless, to be honest. I think his form from last year is better. You know, the close form with Earthlight, I think that's very good form in comparison. And I think he was just a good horse in what has turned out to not look a brilliant Commonwealth Cup, and probably should have been favoured, let's be honest with ourselves. But he does bring rock-solid credentials. Hello Yumzane's probably the one of the top 3 that would wouldn't mind soft ground the most, and I suppose there might be one or two out there that's going, why would you think that Sceptical would turn the form around? And I just have an inkling that, you know, Frankie with another kind of go on and might get it right. He does have rock solid form. He did show that he was well able to produce at Group 1 level in the Diamond Jubilee when coming third. Apart from that, his form has been pretty rock solid over in Dundalk, and then he obviously won the listed race at Naas by 4 lengths. So he's a very good horse. I do think one of these races will fall his way. Whether the ground does go against him, I'm not so sure. But 9-2's too big a price for me to really turn away from, I suppose. If he was just 3-1 across the board, I would be a bit more dubious. But 9-2 is a nice price, and that's my selection for the July Cup. The Superlative Stakes is a 7 furlong race, Group 2, I believe, for 2-year-olds. And a few very well-bred, very good maiden winners in this race. Hudson River, he's the Mecca's Angel colt, I think, of Aidan O'Brien's, won a decent Curragh maiden from Ace Ozzie, and Seventh Kingdom won a Doncaster maiden for John Gosden, and David Egan retains the ride, which is interesting. I don't know whether there's something there or not. Maybe I've missed a trick, but David Egan rode him on his debut and he's kept the ride, even though Frankie's riding the race for Mark Johnson. So that's good to see. But one I'd take here at an each-way price is Ventura Tormenta for Richard Hannon and Sean Levy in Midland Park Racing. He's 12-1. Now, this horse has been a little bit in the spotlight because obviously ITV and At the Races presenter Kevin Blake bred the horse. A son of acclamation, and he was thrown in the deep end in Royal Ascot. He hadn't run before, and they ran him in the Norfolk Stakes, and he came 6th, and he ran very well in that, maybe a little bit outpaced over 5 furlongs. That didn't look a bad race, to be honest, with the Learjet, Golden Pal, Lipizzaner, all bringing good form to the table and all running well, and he shaped very well that day. They stepped him up to 6 furlongs next time out at Yarmouth, and he went off 4-6 for a maiden, and won very routinely, Pat Dobbs, only using hands and heels that day. So that was a very taking performance. Now, this stepping up to 7 furlongs is interesting because Acclamation would be slightly more, ever so slightly more inclined to produce, you know, precocious 5-6 furlong horses. And this horse hasn't looked short of speed. But 7 furlongs is an interesting step. They obviously think he's going to get it. And a double figure price seems just quite big in a race where there's definitely going to be 3 places. I think there's 9 or 10 confirmed to run in the race. And you just don't know with these maiden winners. You know, O'Brien's brought over a lot of 2-year-olds now to England that have won at a good maiden in Ireland, seemingly, and haven't quite delivered the goods. And it'll be interesting to see how Hudson River shapes. I think Charlie Appleby has a horse in there as well, a Godolphin horse. I can't remember his name now that you come to me. But there are 3 or 4 very, very well-bred maiden winners at the top of the market. But I think this horse is just a little big at 12-1. I'd make him maybe an 8-9-1 chance. And if he stays the trip, which is probably the big question, I think this horse could be very, very close, actually. I think he's a very good horse. The Bunbury Cup is a 7 furlong handicap. It's not a race I've had much of a look at, so it's just going to be a kind of slightly brief, kind of overlook really. And I'd give a chance here to Arigato. He's 12-1 best price with a few bookmakers for William Jarvis and Josephine Gordon. A pretty reliable little stick at this stage, even though he's only 5, but gelded horse. And he's won his last 2 off mark, so 79, and he won by, I think, 9 lengths when he was off a mark at 79, so that was the proverbial good thing. And won off 87 last time out. Over course and distance, I believe, to Poets. No, not Poets. It's Vale of Kent, I think. I think that's the one. The Mark Johnson horse, anyway, who's in this race again at 12 or 14-1. He's now off a mark of 92. It's one of those you don't know where the ceiling is with this horse. He's kind of been running around, like as a 3 and 4-year-old, he was running a lot in the marks of 70s and stuff like that, and suddenly he springboarded up to a mark of 92. So it's either he's just a vast improver and he's finally kind of, the penny is beginning to drop, or maybe this is a step too far. But 12-1's not a bad each-way price to get involved in. The Bunbury Cup's a race you probably get 4 or 5 places on the day with the majority of bookmakers, as it's that, you know, 18-19 runner handicap, and hopefully this horse can hit the frame or go one better and defy a mark at 92 for the Jarvis and Josephine Gordon combination. The fourth race we're covering is the Summer Mile, so we're moving over to Ascot on Saturday. We're just going to cover the one race at Ascot, which is this Group 2 race. And it has the very unlucky horse here in the Queen Anne, Mohather, at the top of the market. He's 2-1 for Marcus Tregonning and Dane O'Neill. He was extremely unlucky in the Queen Anne. He was well backed beforehand. I think they obviously thought he was going to run well. And to be honest, he would have come at least third, I suspect, if he'd gotten a fair run. However, he's 2-1 for this race. And what I can't understand is Scardu being a top price 13-2, second favourite. And 13-2 is not a bad price, even if you want to get involved in an each-way perspective. Obviously, that depends what type of each-way punter you are. But this horse got an equally unlucky run of things in the Queen Anne and just finished a place behind Mohather. But nobody seems to be kind of talking about that. And there's just a little bit too much discrepancy in price for my liking. He was third in the 2,000 guineas last year, fourth in the Irish 2,000 guineas, before running a very good fourth in the St James's Palace as well. So this is a very good horse, Scardu. He hasn't won, I think, since winning first time out as a 3-year-old. So it has been a little bit of a while between drinks, but things maybe haven't been quite as straightforward as they look out. And this Son of Charmadel hopefully will have a Group 2 in him at some stage. I just think, as I say, it's more so price discrepancy than anything. Mohather 2-1, Scardu 13-2. I think that's a fair price to take him on, because if Mohather absolutely hacks up 13-2, I just can't see this Scardu finishing out of the top 3, to be honest. I don't think there's over amounts of depth in the race. I think Marie's Diamond, who came third in the Queen Anne, it could be opposable. Obviously got kind of favourite horses up with the pace in the Queen Anne, and she was kind of just bang there. But Scardu and Mohather, I do make it between the two of them, and there's just a little bit too much, as I say, in the price differentiation. So Scardu for me at 13-2. Just covering the one race on Sunday down at Cork, the Brownstown Stakes, 7 furlong race for Group 3 fillies, and it is a race that hasn't been priced up, unfortunately. So I'm going to put up a selection in this race. I don't know what the price is. It's a bit like Even So last week, who went off the nap, and she ended up being 13-8, which I thought she'd actually be shorter than that. And I'm going to put up Valeria Messalina in this. You guys know how much I like these Harrington fillies. This daughter of Holy Roman Emperor beat one of my favourites, now the King, on her racecourse debut before finishing second to Rosa Kildare in the Oh So Sharp Stakes. And Rosa Kildare's obviously won the Musadora only yesterday at York, so that form has finally taken a bit of a franking. She ran okay in the Irish 1,000 guineas from the front, maybe a bit keen. Also, you're not quite sure whether she quite got home over a mile, ended up finishing 9th of 11. Back to 7 furlongs here is probably ideal for this filly. She hasn't been, I think, the easiest to train. I think she was a bit of a monkey as a 2-year-old. But hopefully she's maturing quite nicely. And I do think a race like this is within her remit. So hopefully she can go very close in the Brownstown Stakes. And to finish off, a nap of the weekend, it's going to come at Leopardstown. It's going to come in the Meld Stakes over a mile, 1 furlong, a Group 3 race. On Saturday, it's at 5:15. Got some good horses in here. You've got Zabil Prince coming over for the Roger Varing team. You've got Ancient Spirit for the Jessica Harrington team. But I have been so taken with this horse, Patrick Sarsfield, winning his last 2 handicaps. He won over course and distance by 5 lengths off a mark at 86, which was the biggest disgrace ever that he was running off a mark at 86 for Joseph O'Brien. Declan McDonough has ridden him to victory both times this year. Since being gelded, he just looks a different horse, to be honest. He's well worth his place in this Group 3 contest. As I say, it's not a bad Group 3. Ancient Spirit's coming in probably lifetime best form, and Zabil Prince has won a Group 1 over in France this time last year. So it is a tough Group 1, but you're getting 3-1 about Patrick Sarsfield. William Hill are the only bookmakers that have priced this race up so far. So it's hard to know what the overall kind of bookmaker SP could be, but I'm going to put up 3-1 for the sake of the video here as my nap of the weekend. I hope that he's just a real improver, this 4-year-old. I think he's going to be bang there. He's looked so much better since being gelded, and hopefully he can go and collect the goods in the Meld stakes. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. If you did so, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel down below if you're new here. Great to see you along, and obviously give me your opinions for the weekend's racing down below and your nap of the weekend if you do have one. And until next week, where we'll be covering more of the action from the weekend, stay safe, stay well, hopefully land a few bets, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.